All right, I'll call the meeting to order.
The meeting has been posted according to open meeting laws.
Roll call.
President Johnson.
Here.
Trustee Alexander.
Here.
Trustee Holm.
Here.
Trustee Nugent. Here. Trustee Renucci.
Here.
Trustee Smalley.
Here.
Trustee Wisniewski.
Here.
Thank you.
All right, I will open citizen participation per Village Resolution 2017-01. Anyone wishing to address the village board during citizen participation will be allowed 5 minutes. Your subject must specifically relate to matters under the jurisdiction of the village board, whether on the agenda or not. The village board should not engage in a discussion regarding comments because it was not part of the publicly noticed agenda. Upon conclusion of this citizen participation segment, members of the audience are not allowed further comment unless they're participating in a public hearing or if specifically allowed by a majority vote of the village board due to involvement in an agenda item. I have one person shaking their head no, 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 okay. That's 3 no's. I tried 3 times. We'll close citizen participation and move on to consent agenda. One motion and a second. We'll approve all of the following items. Any item may be pulled from the list and voted on separately. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any questions?
I'm going to abstain from one since I was not here.
All right.
I also need to abstain from the first item.
Anybody else? I can't remember.
I had one question on, and I apologize, but, no, wait, I'm sorry, this on the next item coming up. My bad.
Going once, going twice. All right. Motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Miscellaneous business, item 1, consideration of computer upgrades for municipal building to be taken from reserves for IT projects. And you see the memo here from Eileen, but 40, it sounds like you had a question on this one.
I'm sorry, my question is on the number 2.
I just was going to, Eileen and I were just chatting. Since this is in reserve, and I think the only reason why this is coming to us is because of the way our procurement policy is written, not because of ordinance, right?
It's really coming to the board primarily because it's part of the reserves, but over, each year we do set aside accumulating funds for this. But if we do not want these type items to come to the board, we probably could amend the procurement policy.
I think we should look at that, don't you?
Yes.
I mean, we clearly budgeted for it. They're buying it. I mean, I said if anybody has questions about specs, they can run it by you or me, but, okay. All right, any questions, though? Since this is before us, I guess we do need to approve it.
Well, in that case, I'll make a motion to approve up to $14,500 for computer upgrade project in addition to the 10,990 laptop order that has been placed to be taken for reserves for future IT needs.
I'll second it.
Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 2, consider refund and chargeback of 2023 property tax error for RA 821000002. So you see the memo here from Eileen. So Eileen, is there anything you want to highlight, and then we'll get to your question, 40? Oh, sorry, Lori. I apologize. Thank you. It says, the bookmark took me to the other memo. That's why I just looked at the header. Oh. Okay. Lori.
Yeah, so the assessor notified us of this error. Basically, we have to refund the property owner, so it's a matter of do it now or do it at board of review, which is in a couple of months. We can do it right away, or we can put it through the chargeback process. It's not a lot of money that we would be charging back to the other entities, and that process would not happen until early in 2025, because you have to wait for the entire taxing year to go through. So it comes up once everything is done, so it would be in the spring of 2025. But we do have personal property yet this year, and we are just finishing out the taxing year. I do not know if we have very much personal property that hasn't been paid. In the past, our collections have gone very well with personal property. This year, I'm not sure. I usually do pretty well, but a lot of people are realizing, that they're not going to have it again. So we might have more chargebacks, we might not. That's kind of an unknown at this point. But 40 had a question, yeah.
Yeah, I have a question in regards to, my opinion is, I think we should pay them back as soon as we can.
Yeah, I agree.
That's what I was going to bring up. It was just a mistake, and they weren't, I guess we paid back pretty quick. There's no harm, no foul, correct?
The property owner's aware of the error, and he paid the first installment on the property. So we would ask him to pay the second half of that and provide proof of that before we would refund the whole thing. Again, it's an accounting thing. If he was overcharged by $10 and he's already paid $5, we're not going to pay him the $5 back because the remaining $5 is still sitting out there on the books at the county tax system looking to be collected. So we can't pay the tax for him. He would have to pay it, and then we would reimburse him. Forty looks confused.
I'm not confused. I'm trying to put myself in that person's position. That's all. I mean, I want to simplify it. Let's say they owed $2,000. They paid $1,000 up front, and in June, they're going to pay another $1,000. Now, let's say we overcharged them by $200, okay? So instead of, basically, they would have paid $900 and $900. So what's wrong with us just giving him the money back? The guy's got to pay his taxes in the second half anyway, otherwise he's going to lose his house. So that's what I don't understand.
Well, first of all, it's not partial, it's a full. So it's not like we overcharged him by $200. The entire tax amount shouldn't have happened. So the entire tax bill is the $279 or whatever it is. Okay?
So it's a lot, obviously.
There's two lots and the building spans it, so it's normally assessed together. For some reason, it got picked up and got assessed as a building and a vacant.
So I know that he's aware, the property owner's aware of it. Was there a response from the property owner? Are they okay waiting until they make the next payment and then reimbursement can take place?
He knew that there was an issue and that we would be discussing how to take care of it. So depending on what we decide tonight, I will contact him because obviously we can't refund it until he pays the whole thing because it's a bill to him. And then we want to refund him, not pay his tax to the county, so.
Yeah, it's got to clear off the books before we can give him the money back.
So if he goes and pays the second half tomorrow, we could pay his refund sooner. He doesn't have to wait till July.
I'm going to ask a silly question. So he made the payment. Where's the money right now?
The money is in our tax account for the first installment on that property, and then through the tax program, we transfer the portions to the different places.
Yeah, so.
The different taxing entities, the county, the gateway, and schools.
Right, so to reiterate, anything we collect, it's not like the village holds all that money, we distribute it. Because once it's part of the tax roll, it's part of that calculation, and we're required to distribute that to the other taxing entities.
So theoretically, then, that money that was overcharged is part of the village, part of the school, part of the county, and, okay. And this person is aware of all of that.
He may not know all of the details, but he knows that he shouldn't have been charged for that, but he needed to take care of it before it was decided how it would be refunded to him, yeah.
So once he makes the payment, then the refund could be issued to him. So if he made the payment tomorrow, the payment could be refunded to him within a week or whatever.
All I can say is, I paid my taxes the first half. I'm not going to have the money to, if somebody said, you got to pay the second half now, I wouldn't have it. I don't know how many people could. But the point is that does this person know that this overcharge contains money for separate entities? And you said you have to explain that.
And he has multiple properties, so when he brought in all of his properties to pay, he paid the first installment on all of them. And if he chooses to, I mean, if we say, yeah, we'll refund you as soon as you pay the second installment, and he says, I can't pay that until July, then that's, when he provides that receipt, then we can do the reimbursement.
As annoying as this process is, and as much as I want to get I want the taxpayer to get what's his back because of the error, I'm afraid if we do an in-run round, we could potentially make this worse from a bookkeeping perspective. So, I mean, my thought is walk him through it, tell him as soon as he pays the second half, and like you said, it's not to be July, then we can issue the refund, and then if he has a problem with that, then he can come to our next board meeting and petition us.
In the recommendation are numbers 1, 2, and 3 options?
Yeah, they are. We can, the amount is so small that standing by itself, we may decide to forego the whole chargeback process. But we might want to say, let's wait until later in the year when we see if we have other chargebacks as well. That would be my suggestion, to see how much. If it remains that this is the only one, the chargeback process may not be financially feasible just due to staff time and process, because it is a fairly small amount. But if I have personal property people that don't pay, that's on us to handle, so. Right. So I think that the easiest course of action would be, as Matt said, to notify the homeowner that once he pays the second half, we'll reimburse him for the error, and then hold that open to see if there are additional chargebacks, and then we'll handle that. I'll probably come back to the board once we know what that is, which would be mid-year. Okay?
I like the idea of having the conversation with the landowner and letting him know that it's the intent of the board to get him reimbursed as soon as possible. But there are procedural issues that are kind of standing in the way. And if that's not agreeable to him, give him the option to come in and let us revisit it. But I think that's a great place to start.
All right, I'll make the motion that we will provide the direction as Jim eloquently outlined.
Yep.
Any other discussion or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 3, review of 2024 through 2025 insurance renewal, property, liability, auto, etc. And you see Eileen's memo here. You got anything you want to highlight?
As I said in my memo, there were timing issues when I received the renewal, but it was very favorable. We've talked through our timeline for future years, although because we've switched to the League of Wisconsin Municipality Insurance, I think we're going to see more steady rates than we've historically seen. So the overall increase was 3.3%, which was $5,073, which is not bad considering that our property's values increased just over $5 million because we had reappraisals of our property values. So a significant portion of that increase is directly attributed to that. We saw decreases in general liability and auto liability, and our workman's comp mod factor continues to be extremely low. The lowest we can have is 0.73. We're at 0.75, which results in significant savings in that premium for the village. So reviewing the overall budget and the amount that is actually charged to our budget, because a portion of the premium is charged to emergency services, would be $465 over budget, But we also must keep in mind that we receive an approximate $10,000 dividend for workman's comp. The first 3 years, that is a flat dividend because they don't have experience from us with that carrier. So overall, I'm very pleased with the renewal. I think the increase was very favorable, and we've been very happy with their services, and especially in light of some of the experiences we had this year and how they serviced us and the squads that were replaced. Did anybody have any questions?
Just one. The Emergency Services District Workers' Comp, is that split out between the municipalities in the district?
We bill that directly to the emergency services, so then that's part of their, I would assume that's part of their operating budget that is split out.
Excuse me, I'd like to at least mention the fact that that mod factor is a big deal. And I had a lot of experience with that in my time in business, but I want to make sure that we commend the management of all the departments and the people in the departments and the safety of being careful and just staying safe. And I think that makes a big difference, and also in their own well-being.
I know we chatted with the cybersecurity group that they put us in contact with through this. Are we continuing that?
I had given them some information, so the league was looking at us, using us kind of as a test case because, as you probably saw in the packet, there's a lot of add-on services that they provide us that are free of charge and much more robust services than we've seen from some of our other carriers. And one of the programs they're looking to do involves cybersecurity. And we had agreed to kind of test that out for them. But I had submitted some information they asked for, and I haven't heard anything back from them at this point.
Okay. All right, so no other questions? All right. Item 4, consideration of police department request to replace handguns. And you see the chief's memo. Any questions for the deputy chief?
Yes. Josh, how much additional training is going to be set aside to help the officers adapt to red dots?
So actually, we just purchased, Officer Price had did some research with Red Dot, and we have 3 optics that are going to go on training guns, and actually has a, the Red Dot company that we went with has a mobile app that we download, and we also have a target. So before these actually go into service, Officer Price, it's going to be at least 6 or 7 months before these actually hit the road. So his plan is to do a lot of practical training with these, with the new system that we have, and then at least 1 or 2 monthly trainings before these actually go into service. So make sure all our officers are adequate with these red dots before they're sent down the road with them.
It's important, the training factor is important just for the rest of the board's benefit, because in the past, what you're doing with, a non-red dot, a traditional iron sight gun is you're looking at the front sight and acquiring a target. When you're using a red dot, it's the opposite. You see the target, you put the dot on the target, and you squeeze the trigger. So it's a little different mindset.
Could you go over that one more time?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. When you're using an iron-sighted gun, traditional guns, you've got a front sight and a rear sight, right? To do that, to sight it correctly, you place the front sight, basically, you look at the front sight, you focus on the front sight in relationship to the target, okay? But with a red dot, you see the target and you put the dot on the target. It's a little different thinking.
It's like a laser.
Yeah, but it doesn't project. I mean, it's just encased in glass. So
Laser tag.
So it's just a little different thinking, and it takes some training to get used to. Do you happen to know if they're going to be co-witnessed with irons, or are they just going to be strict red dots?
My understanding is they're just strict red dots.
If the red dot doesn't work, then there's no sights to work with.
That's a question I do not know. I can ask Officer Price.
Yeah. I'm just wondering, because in training with Red Dots, typically, one of the methods of training that I'm sure he knows about is to just simply draw the gun with the dot off, and then all of a sudden turn the dot on and draw the gun and see if the dot's where it's supposed to be, you know? So that's if you use co-witness sights, you know, irons with red dot. But if you don't, then I would say it's a little longer training period, but it's certainly doable. And the reliability on that sort of thing now, unbelievable, so.
I had one question. I see you're getting 12 weapons. Is it just one for every officer?
Yes, so we'll have 10 officers, 9 full-time, 1 part-time, so that's 10, and then we have 2 spare.
That's what I wanted to know. That's good. Thank you.
So I'll make a motion to approve the trade-in of 11 department-owned firearms and purchase of 12 fully equipped, I love that phrase, Glock 47 9mm Gen 5 handguns and duty holsters for each officer at a cost of $10,000, $45.32, which includes $65 shipping charge.
And I'll second that.
Dr. Kiesler.
I'm surprised the motion didn't include you attending the training.
I already shoot a red.
Or to lead the training, excuse me. In case Officer Price is not feeling well that day. All right, any other questions or comments? All right, all those in favor? Aye, opposed? Motion carries. On to ordinances and resolutions. Resolution 2024-01, amending 2024 budget to incorporate municipal building project. And you see Eileen's memo there about the changes and how we're using ARPA funds.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2024-01.
I'll second it.
Any other discussion or questions? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Resolution 2024-02, loan from capital reserves to TID4. And you see the memo there and the reasons for that.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2024-02.
I'll second it.
I have a question. Eileen, on this, I know they're talking about there was a hole, there was fill we left there, we weren't sure. Did they end up using some of that fill?
Yeah, they used all of the fill that we had on the site.
They did?
Yeah.
So there's nothing that we're going to have to move at a later date?
There's nothing that we'll have to move that was fill on the site, but there's another portion of that hole that lies in that next property to be developed that might need to be filled depending on what the
Right.
development is.
Right, we'll have to haul something in then?
Yes.
Well, what I'm saying is that there's nothing else that we're going to have to move that's in the way
All the
now?
stockpiles are gone.
Okay.
Sorry, I was trying to find this, I couldn't find it. How did we come up with the rate?
The rate that, so I asked Ellers to assist me with that, and they ended up using the investment rate, so we would not be losing the money in capital projects that we would have received had we invested the money.
We have a motion and a second already, right? Okay. Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, on to reports. Library board minutes from December 12th. Any questions for Mary? Item 2, 2023 PACER ratings and the map from Jason. Any questions for Jason?
I had one. Sorry, Jason. I think this is great, the way, and I could figure out most of the street names from the map I got. The only thing I was going to ask, and this is a lot like the last time we got, I think, was when Tom was here. But actually, it looks like we're in pretty good shape, except for part of the old part of the village, down towards where the pond used to be, where the stream is now.
Yep, so obviously, we'll use this tool to, help pick out the streets that we're going to revitalize during our CIP planning process. So as you can see, there is a lot in the middle of the road there, the yellows. We just don't want too much of the reds and oranges, we don't want to see too much of that. They quickly go from green to the yellows, and then they kind of hang out in the yellows for a long time. We want to catch them before they get to those yellows and reds. The orange and reds. It's a very simple definition, but that's really how this thing works. And we do assess the streets every 2 years.
And I know you and I have chatted outside of this, but about Town Line Road, do we need to engage with the town of Troy on that one?
So we do have we have an agreement in place with them already. And we will need to, I think we have to provide them with a year's notice on when we're looking to do it. And they have a set dollar amount that they provide us for that portion of their portion of Town Line Road. We have an intergovernmental agreement with them on it.
Why is Highway 20 not rated?
So actually, there's a couple of streets in here that shouldn't be rated at all, like ES, you'll notice, is rated, and that's not our jurisdiction, so it shouldn't even really be in our ratings, but it is. And maybe there isn't a rating for Highway 20, I'm not sure. It is, but yes, again, it really isn't on us to rate it, it's not our jurisdiction, so.
It's just, I also noticed, I had the same thought about Highway L, by the airport. That's not
Correct,
inside.
that shouldn't be color-coded on our map either.
Okay. And then there are parts of St. Peter's there that are on the north side or in the town. How does our agreement with them work for that?
I don't know that we have an actual agreement with the town on St. Peter's Road. There's a similar situation, I think, out on Honey Creek Road where, obviously part of it's ours, part of it's the township's. But I don't believe there's any agreements in place. I don't think traditionally that's how things were handled with agreements. They were just, the old kind of handshake. You take care of it between here and here, and we'll take care of it between here and there. We may want to move to a more formal agreement when it comes time for those.
For what it's worth, Matt, when we set up that park, John, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we had discussion, and we did go, Honey Creek did go to 4 lanes, and there were some homes that were in there, were still in the town, and rather than playing hopscotch and everything else, the village just said, we'll just take care of Honey Creek from 120 down to the end of the park, I'm pretty sure is what we came up with.
And I know we've talked about this in the past, so it's also got Highway G. So G is really from the ramps to the bridge, right?
No, to the square, 40
So
is correct.
So all of that shouldn't be rated for us either.
Correct. And that actually now is, the county had lost sight of that one. It is now in their CIP. I want to say somewhere around 2026.
Boy, more road construction. All right. Well, you got to keep it from turning red. All right. Thank you. Any other questions for Jason? All right. Item 3, East Troy Area Emergency Services District minutes from December 19th. Questions for Jason? Also, 2023 fire and rescue numbers and the fire chief's report for January.
Is the ladder truck back in service? Did you know?
The ladder truck is back in service until May.
25?
Yep. So we have it through May. In May, it goes out. So we're not supposed to get our new ladder truck until, we were supposed to get it in May.
Yeah.
They pushed it out till December, maybe January. So we're going to go, It is 6 to 8 months, if not longer, well, without, so we'll be calling mutual.
The other thing I noticed is it looks like the rescue calls have plateaued maybe for a little while because we've had 2 years that are similar now. We're not seeing these crazy jumps.
They
year to year.
did, but they're pretty high for the beginning of the
Yeah, oh,
year.
yeah.
So everything's going to go back up. We also have a number of concerts this year at Alpine, so that'll contribute towards numbers as well.
Really quick, Jason, on this, I'm sure, I talked to Joe one time, how many ambulances do we have now?
We have 3.
We actually have 3 ambulances operating.
Well, we have 2 that we primarily use. We have one for backup. That one eventually will go out of service, but yeah, we do have 3 that can be used.
Are they still planning on using that third one at Alpine, just leaving it there? Or?
We're supposed to take possession of the new ambulance. I think it's next year, 2025. So in the interim, we'll use that third one down at Alpine if they want us to come, if they want to pay for it.
Yeah, right.
And then in the future, I think Joe has got some other plans for it through the county.
Anything else for Jason? Okay, item 6, December financial reports. The December financial, the variance, the dam report, and the airport. Any questions for Eileen? Okay, I will make a motion to adjourn to closed session pursuant to Wisconsin Statute D 1985-1F, considering social or personal histories of specific persons, where if discussed in public would likely have a substantial adverse effect upon the reputation of any person referred to in such histories or data involved in such problems or investigations, and 1985-1E, deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session, contracted service, and letter of intent.
I'll second that.
Roll call vote, please.
President Johnson?
Yes.
Trustee Alexander? Trustee Holm?
Yes.
Trustee Nugent? Yes. Trustee Wisniewski? I'm
Yeah.
sorry, Trustee Renucci?